From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
With me today is Steve Cook. Steve is the author of the book Lifeonaire, An Uncommon Approach to Wealth, Success, and Prosperity. And he's also the founder of a business and coaching organization called Lifeonaire. So, Steve, tell me just a little more about yourself, and we'll get started with some questions about our subject.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Well, Lifeonaire is a book that I had written that revolves around a word that I feel that God gave to me many years ago, back in 2003. And my background in real estate investing, I was somebody who was really just pursuing success, thinking that it was all about finances, and quickly came to learn that success was a lot more than just that. And really what I wanted was to live and experience an abundant life. And today, I'm just passionate about helping other people to find their way to that and to truly living successful lives that are very meaningful and important to them.
Okay, we're gonna do what we call a gratefulness revival, or talk about a gratefulness revival. I'm out here and a Southern Baptist, so I know about revivals. And why is right now a time for us to be thinking about gratefulness?
I think that since we have just come out of the pandemic, there was a lot of people who just experienced tons of fear of loss, whether that was of life, whether that was of material things. There's many, many things that people feared. And, now that we're coming out of the other side of that, I think that everyone should really take just a close look at all that they have to be grateful for, and just it begins to dissipate the fear. It begins to help you to move forward and to look beyond. But we have so much in life to be grateful for, that with all the struggles and everything that we have had as a nation lately, it just takes your eye off of that, and you forget and just don't pay attention to what's really going on around you. That is really good and worth being grateful for.
Why does gratefulness and joy go hand in hand?
Well, I just think that without gratefulness, you can't experience joy. When we're ungrateful, it just brings a negative feeling to us altogether. We just sort of clothe ourselves in that, and there's no peace in ungratefulness. There's no joy in ungratefulness. And when you can look at the little things and the big things around you and be grateful for them, joy just seems to overflow.
Is gratefulness a choice? What happens if we don't really intentionally want to be grateful?
Yeah, without a doubt, gratefulness is a choice. I find very few people that being grateful is just natural to them. With practice, it gets easier. There's no question about it. However, when we don't choose to be grateful, if there is no neutral ground, we're automatically ungrateful if we don't make that choice to express gratitude for the things that we have in our lives. And I think it's just cut and dry. If you're not expressing gratitude for something, you're automatically going to be ungrateful for it.
Okay. Well, does gratefulness always come easily? What about those days when we're feeling a little bit grumpy and we're not looking forward to anything,
Without a doubt, it's a struggle, and that's where the choice comes in. There are days that are hard. There's circumstances that come into our life that's hard. And when those things do come and they hit us, we can choose to just really focus on that, or we can choose to focus on the things that we are grateful for. Sometimes when we do express that gratitude, it begins to just change the atmosphere that's around us. And you can actually begin to see your way out of that. You can, I know that when things are hard, I can sit there and I can look at my kids, and that just brings a smile to my face. And I can just express gratitude and just be thankful for them. And you sort of forget about some of the other things that are going on in your life when you can be grateful for something else.
You're suggesting that we be grateful every day. Does practicing being grateful become easier over time?
Absolutely. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be very easy, but it does get easier. When I actually coach people and I try to help them with this, sometimes they just have to push through. That everything in them doesn't want to be grateful. Life has thrown many curveballs at them, and they would rather be focused on that, but they don't understand that when they're focused on that self-pity and the negative things that have been brought into their lives, that's all they're going to see. But there's so much good around them that if they can begin to just be grateful for the good that they do have, they will move beyond the situation and the circumstances that they're in, at least see beyond it. And that joy and that peace and the life that they can experience from being grateful will help bring them out of the tough spots.
One of the things that people do over and over physically is go to the gym and exercise, and they notice that they get a little stronger. And what you're suggesting is that emotionally they can become stronger if they practice gratefulness.
Absolutely. It's sort of exercising that gratefulness muscle, and the stronger it gets, the easier it is to find the things in your life that you're grateful for.
How does gratefulness change the atmosphere around you? What happens in that particular case?
Well, I just feel that once you sit here and you start expressing gratefulness, that there's heavy times. There's, like we brought up earlier, we're faced with trials. We have all kinds of things that come into our life, and there's that heaviness. But when you begin to just express gratitude for the things that you have, and whether that's through prayer or expressing gratitude to people around you, or just being grateful that you've got a new day, or you've got an opportunity to be able to do something, it's hard for the ungratefulness or for the trials to just exist in that kind of atmosphere. It's awesome when you come around people who are just always grateful and they're just filled with joy. It's like nothing, can stick to them. If it's negative, it just like rolls off their back and they just keep on going. And so expressing gratefulness really begins to change the atmosphere and doesn't let those things really settle in your life.
Well, does gratefulness change the atmosphere enough so that small problems, you begin solving some of the smaller problems in your life as well as the big ones?
Absolutely. And that's usually where it starts. It's when the small ones start to just dissipate. Sometimes those small ones just don't seem like problems when we recognize all the things that we have to be grateful for. And I think all too often we see things as problems that really aren't problems. And I share this one thing oftentimes, that if you think you have it bad or if you're struggling, just go help somebody else. And when you put yourself in that position where you're helping someone else, all of a sudden you start to become pretty grateful for the things that you have. You realize your problems might not be nearly as bad as you thought they were when you see what somebody else is going through.
Well, when you are grateful, do you smile a little bit more? And I'm asking that for a specific reason. Go ahead. Do you tend to smile?
Absolutely. I mean, that's when joy is coming into your life. And when you're just experiencing that joy, it's got to come out some way. And that's typically the way that it comes out.
Well, that's great, because since we talked about the physical exercise a minute ago, smiling actually helps people feel better. It releases chemicals in their system that actually make them feel better. So being grateful for that is a good thing, right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can we get to where we feel grateful even for our problems?
I think that when you have exercised that muscle and you're starting to just be grateful for most everything that just comes into your life, you start to see the trials as opportunities. When we do experience trials or defeat, we can see that as just a temporary defeat where we're learning something and we're going to grow from it and we're going to move beyond it and be in a better place for it. Or we can really just focus on the hard time and maybe the defeat in that moment and accept it. And when we do accept it, we don't learn anything from it. We don't move forward. We don't grow. And so and I'll tell you, I have struggled, and this is a struggle, and this is a good thing, but some people would call it a struggle, to where I used to sit there and make mistakes and then be happy that I made the mistake because I could learn a new lesson from it. And then I would look forward to the next mistake. And, that almost sounds crazy, but when you have that attitude of gratefulness, you recognize that every one of those is an opportunity for growth, to move forward and to be better than you were before that took place.
Yeah, that's wonderful. By the way, since we're talking about physical things as well, a doctor many years ago forgot to close the windows of his laboratory. He was doing medical experiments, and some petri dishes that he had left out got mold on them. The mold blew into the laboratory, and we ended up with penicillin. So a problem can turn into something really good sometime, can't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Is it possible for a victim mentally to feel grateful if something bad happens to them and it doesn't get better right away? How do you work on something like that?
Well, again, I don't want to diminish or not sympathize with those who are victims of situations that were completely out of their control. But once something does happen, we do have a choice to focus on, choose to just, where do we put our focus? And in spite of all of the things, we all go through trials. We all have been a victim to something at some level or another. And in the midst of that, we all still have something to be grateful for. And we can turn our thoughts to the things that we have to be grateful for. Each day that we wake up is a new day that we can now make the best of it. Yesterday may have been hard. It may have been a really bad day, but we need to be grateful for the new day and the new opportunities that we have been given. And in the midst of that, when we are grateful, it's really hard to wallow in self-pity. It's really hard to wallow in that victim mentality. But again, for those who have really experienced traumatic experiences, it's not easy. They do need to just take those moments when they can just sit down for a moment and think about the things that are worth being grateful for and divert their attention toward that. And eventually that gratefulness overcomes the self-pity and the victim mentality that is the exact opposite of what they should be embracing.
Okay, well, how does a person that wants to become grateful get started being grateful? Is it difficult to start?
The reality is it's easy in the sense that anybody can do it. When you are ungrateful, when you are facing challenges, you just have to sort of buck up and make the choice to start doing it. And my recommendation is that, each and every day, and sometimes this needs to be done multiple times a day, is to just sit down and think about every single thing that you have to be grateful for and just start expressing it. I remember a friend one time who was telling me that, come up with 40 things. And, the reality is if we're honest with ourselves, we can come up with hundreds of things when we're starting to pay attention to all the little things around us that we can be grateful for. But, if it's 10 or 20 things that you need to get started with, just really thinking about, thank you for a new day. I'm so grateful that I had an opportunity today. I'm grateful for the sunshine. Or if it's raining out, I'm grateful for the rain because we need rain too. And what can I find, to be grateful about that? I'm grateful for my spouse. I'm grateful for my friends and my family. I'm grateful that I have a good car to drive and that I have a house, to sleep in, or grateful for my food and that we get to eat. And, so there's just so many things that we just overlook. And they're little things, but when we can really take the time to be grateful for it, that list can get very extensive. And if we take the time to just do that each and every day and express gratitude, it will change our relationships. It will just change the atmosphere around us. It will help us to really begin to let go of our struggles and the things that bring us down, but to just focus on that life of joy and peace through gratefulness.
A lot of teachers, and I'm here at a university, a lot of college professors also recommend that people keep a journal. And that's more than just listing things. It's kind of writing about what was happening. Is that something that's good too?
Absolutely. It's something that I do on a regular basis. And I'll just share one other tip with that, one of the things that my wife and I will do together is that we'll journal together. But what I'll do is I'll actually write in it and I'll write what I'm grateful for and how I'm grateful for her. And then I just pass the journal along to her and she gets to see my heart and where I'm at. And then she writes something in it, and she writes something back. And we use that journal just to express what we're grateful for. We also use it as an opportunity to, share and communicate, things that maybe, hey, I'm struggling here and I could really use your help here. And then there's this gratitude, this gratefulness that comes from being able to communicate with one another through that journaling and expressing gratitude that really opens up doors of communication, but we get to really see each other's heart and the gratitude that we have for one another.
You're a life and business coach.
Correct.
And can you tell us about your organization, Lifeonaire?
Sure. The majority of people who we do coach are business owners, small business owners. My background being in real estate investing, that's probably 90% of the people who we do coach. But what I have come to realize is that there's many people who have become successful in business, but they're not successful in life. They've made a lot of money. They've got an organization that does very well, but they're failing at home. And that's where our passion comes in. We like to really help people to be successful, not only in their business, but also at home. The reason they take the risk to go into business for themselves is they hope to have a better life. And we find that many people are not experiencing that abundant life when they go into business for themselves. And we have come to realize that the key is that the purpose of that business needs to be for them to live the abundant life, not just to make money. All too often, people build a business, and the purpose of the business is to make as much money as it can. And sometimes it's at the cost of life. And our goal is to help them to redirect what the purpose of that business is. And it's to give them the ability to be able to live and experience an abundant life, or to be a Lifeonaire.
I've actually met a lot of people in my life that are doing well financially and just really frustrated about how they're living. One thing happens around here. I see boats in people's driveways. Okay, mm-hmm. Now it's 100 miles from here before you can ride in a boat anywhere.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes if people don't do things without stopping to think about, how is this going to be, how am I going to use this? How am I going to be grateful for this?
That is exactly one of the stories that I actually use with this from a person who I coached. His desire was to buy this big boat. And when I started challenging him, I said, what do you want the boat for? And he said, well, I just want it. And I said, but, so tell me about it. I said, how often will you actually get to use that boat? And the question that when I asked him that question, he said, the closest lake that I could take that boat on is about 200 miles away. I didn't even consider that. I might get to use it 2 or 3 days a year. And I said, well, let's really get to the bottom of it. Why do you want the boat? What's the reason behind it? And it was really interesting with asking him those questions, because the conclusion that he came to was that he wanted to be the provider of fun. He wanted to be able to offer fun up to his friends and family, and to just, go out and have a good time. And so I asked him, I said, well, do you need to own the boat to be able to do that? Can you rent a boat? And his answer was, well, yeah, I can rent a boat. And I said, well, this boat that you want to buy is probably going to take you 10 years to buy. And you could rent the boat this weekend. So, you're going to put off doing what it is you really want to do, being the provider of fun, till someday when you can actually experience that this weekend, if you approach it differently. You don't need to own the boat to be the provider of fun. In fact, pursuing that boat and owning that boat and being responsible and taking care of it is only going to rob you of life, and you're going to actually be frustrated, whereas you can rent the boat this weekend, be the provider of fun, and be grateful that you got to be able to do that for your friends.
That's great. And I can say that here, you drive the 100 miles, then you rent the boat. You don't have to drag that thing behind you for such a long time. Yeah. That's really good. How does developing a sense of gratefulness and getting better and better at that tie in with your business, with your Lifeonaire philosophy that you have?
So, what we do is we put our emphasis on life. I mean, at the end of the day, when we're sitting here and we're pursuing things that are not of life, that are not life-giving, the reality is building a business and making money isn't life-giving. It's what we do with that. that becomes life-giving or not. It's whether or not we have the time to be able to do that. When people are working so hard toward achieving worldly success, they don't have the time to be grateful. They don't have the time to spend doing the most important things in life. And our goal is really just to help people to create that space and time to live and experience life, to be grateful for the things that they have, and to not be working so much pursuing something that isn't going to give them that life and joy that they're actually seeking.
Okay. The real estate business is very complicated as far as I'm concerned, but because I'm in television. But how do you coach people in business? What kinds of things does a coach for a business person do or tell them?
So again, my primary emphasis is helping them to live a successful life. And so when it comes down to their businesses, and you brought up real estate is very complicated, it is. There are many, many, many different ways that people actually make money in real estate. And there isn't any two people who I coach that do the exact same thing. They're all different. And so my goal is to help them to design their business in such a way that it serves the lifestyle that they want to live. It gives them the time to be the spouse that they desire to be. It gives them the time to be the parent that they desire to be. Yet we design their business that's efficient and profitable and helps them to earn what they need to live and experience the lifestyle that they want to live. And so whether it's a real estate business, a property management company, if they have a mortgage company, all different aspects. Many, I coach people who provide services such as radon, and then the other person who does hoof trimming for cows, and designing their businesses so that they can live and experience the life that they want to live is the focus that we do. And every single person I've ever coached has always said, I'm doing this for my family, but their family is usually the one who ends up paying the price as they build their business. And we flip that script, and we help them to now do it to where they're actually doing it for their family, and everything in life that they're grateful for, they get to experience through the new found life that they have been able to live.
I'm glad you mentioned hoof trimming. Our viewing area is in a dairy. We're very dairy oriented here on the eastern New Mexico plains, and right across the border in Texas. And down in Roswell, they have a big cheese plant. Up in Clovis, which is north of us, we have a big cheese plant. And I was raised in upstate New York. I never heard of trimming cows' feet, but what we do out here is we keep them in pens, and they don't get around. And people are going to say, "Wait a minute, trimming cows' toenails?" But yes, if they don't have rocks to walk over and out in a pasture wandering around miles every day, their toenails get too long, and they kind of get sick sometimes and have trouble walking. I find it interesting that you're looking at happiness for everybody, no matter what they do, whether they're a nuclear physicist or a carpenter, all of those different kinds of things. The actual concentration on being grateful can help you with any of those things, can it?
Absolutely. I mean, I look at it from the perspective of that God created all of us to be unique. We're not all the same person. And, I tell people that as a coach, it's not easy for me to coach. There's only so many people that I can, because I become intimately familiar with each and every person that I coach. It's one thing to be a coach where everybody has the same goal in mind. But in my particular case, everybody that I coach is different. And I have to get to know them. I need to know their story. I get to know their families. I get to know who they are, where they're at today, where they want to get to. And we develop a specific plan for each and every one of them of what it is that they need to get to from where they are today to where they want to be. And, most often it's working less, working and making more so that they can live more. And it's pretty amazing that how when you put together the right plan, we've seen many of our clients go from working 60 hours a week to working 20 hours a week, making more money and living and experiencing life more abundantly.
Well, Steve, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you very much for coming and talking to me about this and with all of our viewers who are out there. And I want to be able to get in touch with you. And your website is steve@lifeonaire.com. Is that right? Lifeonaire.com?
That's my email address. And the website is lifeonaire.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can learn more about our company, what we do, and get free resources for being, just to help you live and experience a more abundant life.
Very good. We'll have that on the screen so that they can see you and maybe ask you some questions, because it's a great subject, and I certainly appreciate your coming and being on the show and helping the people out here. We're going to kind of get over this pandemic one of these days. We're all going to feel better, and I'm grateful that you talked with me today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Have a blessed day.